Hello everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to another edition of the Legends of Tomorrow Season 6 review series. And today I am going to be talking about Episode 8, Stressed Western, which I have just finished watching. And this episode wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. It was okay, but at the same time it kind of felt like a rehash of an old Western episode that Legends of Tomorrow did, I think, back in season 3, I believe. So, this didn't really feel like anything new. It was just pretty much something that I've seen before, but with just a different cast of characters, but still with Sarah present. But it was okay. I would probably say the highlight of this episode was David Ramsey making a cameo as John Diggle, but he wasn't really John Diggle. He was kind of like an old Western sort of sheriff who's protecting the town. So that was a lot of fun, but at the same time, that character didn't really see a lot of him. I think he had about maybe 2 scenes, maybe 3. So it wasn't really a big cameo compared to like Batwoman, because even though he had one big scene, it was an important scene. His cameo in Legends of Tomorrow didn't really add a lot to the story. It would have been cool if maybe David Ramsey's character is the ancestor of John Diggle or something like that. But I don't know, really. As I said, this wasn't a terrible episode. It was okay. I'd probably say this was average at best, but yeah, it didn't really click with me. It wasn't silly, although it did have some silly moments. It wasn't as silly as some of the other episodes we have seen in Legends of Tomorrow, but it was okay for what it was. But I wouldn't put this down as one of my favourites. So Sarah is back now with Legends of Tomorrow. She's been rescued, so that story arc is now officially wrapped up, and she's also juggling with the fact that how she's going to tell the rest of the team that she's now a clone slash alien hybrid, so to speak. So she's wrestling with that. But other than that, this episode, kind of a hit and miss for me. But I didn't hate this one, but I didn't love it. It was just okay. It wasn't the greatest. Great to see David Ramsey as always, but I just feel his cameo didn't really add a lot to this story, as I said already. But he's appearing in Superman and Lois, and he'll also be appearing in The Flash, I believe, at some point. We'll see, really. But again, nothing about the Green Lantern or anything about him being the Green Lantern or becoming the Green Lantern. But yeah, other than that, this episode didn't really do a lot for me. So with that all said, let's get straight into it. Let's talk about Episode 8, Stressed Western. So we see on the Wave Rider, Ava and the Legends are working together to try and give Sarah the perfect morning back, while they also try to hook up a device from Kayla's ship to help them with their search for aliens. Gary and Spooner keep getting interrupted while trying to connect to the device, included by Constantine, who asks Gary about the Fountain of Imperium, which unsettles Gary. Ava tries to have a nice breakfast in bed with Sarah, but Sarah ends up blurting out her human clone alien hybrid situation. She asks Ava not to tell the team about it just yet, but their chat is interrupted when one of the alien pods is located in the timeline. They learn that the pod is in the Oklahoma territory in 1891, near a place called Fist City. Nate explains that it was the wildest of the Wild West and all of the big names of that time were there. Spooner's alien ESP is going off the charts, but Ava blames it on Gary. Sarah quickly deflects and says she wants to get back in the saddle and have a normal mission. Ava tells Nate that she wants the mission to go smoothly for her. The Legends arrive at Fist City and start trying to find the alien. Birard flirts with Astra. Astra and Spooner clash. The group heads into the saloon, but instead of finding a hostile environment, they find everybody is friendly and nice to each other. The bar doesn't even serve alcohol. What kind of bar doesn't have alcohol? Ridiculous. After a brief scuffle, Spooner is shoved into a man's table, and instead of starting a fight, the man whose drink is spilled cheerfully welcomes them and buys them root beer. A singing cowboy sings them a song welcoming them to Fist City, the gladdest place on earth. Sarah declares that this is going to be very weird. Even Nate is confused and they figure the alien is involved. Astra discovers a man with a lot of gold in his pocket and plans to take it from him by gambling. But there's one problem. Rule number 3 says gambling isn't allowed. It turns out Fist City has had some extensive rules on the order of the sheriff. On the Wave Rider, Constantine continues to ask Gary about the fountain, with Constantine explaining to him that he's lost his powers and he needs to find the fountain. The fountain is actually an alien artifact, but Gary claims it isn't just a myth and tells him just give it up. Nate discovers a wanted poster for Bass Reeves and explains that Reeves is the first marshal west of the Mississippi, not a criminal. So this is who John Diggle character is supposed to be. Is a guy named Bass Reeves. The sheriff is listed as Levi Stempleton, and Nate explains that Stempleton was actually the criminal, and they learn that the aliens must be changing history. As Sarah goes to ask about Stapleton, he arrives at the saloon. He asks the barkeep to give them food and drink so they can find their way. Outside, Astra confronts the man she was playing cards with to try and find out where he got his gold from. As their confrontation gets a bit intense, the ground starts shaking and Spooner senses something. Just before the man can attack Astra, an alien worm rises on the ground and eats him alive. Ugh. Stapleton controls it with a whistle and reminds everyone that they need to keep their temperatures in check and tells the legends to leave. Interesting. On the Wave Rider, Sarah asks Gary about the type of alien. It's a Havarok, an alien that feeds on rage and anger, and they can only be tamed with the whistle that Stapleton has. The plan to get close to Stapleton? A square dancing event. Oh boy. Spooner and Astra are benched. Zari gets close to Stapleton, but he's onto her and it upsets Constantine. The worm is triggered, but Sarah challenges him to a duel by breaking rule number 6, spitting, which we all know spitting is not allowed. As Stapleton and Sarah face off in the duel, Stapleton shoots Sarah in the back of the head, much to the shock of all of the legends, and as Sarah goes down, her bullet wound in her head somehow heals up and she gets straight back up. Stapleton continues to shoot Sarah, but bullets continue to ricochet off Sarah's skin. She shoots the whistle out of his hand before he can do anything further, and the aliens end up eating him. One of the citizens has picked up the whistle, however she refuses to give the whistle over because they want to hold on to the alien worm. A shootout ensues with the legends holding up in the saloon. In the woods, Astra is looking for gold, but Spooner confronts her and the two end up coming to an understanding, realising that they aren't that different from each other. They team up to look for the gold while being observed by Bass Reeves. They discover a trail of gold and find the aliens' worm's hideouts, discovering that it leaves behind a trail of gold. They realise that the whole town is protecting the alien. Reeves emerges and explains the whole situation. Sarah explains her alien hybrid situation to the team, and they start trying to sort out how to get the whistle. However, the team has a lot of conflict with one another. Nate tries to keep cool, but to no avail. Eventually, things escalate out of control, and Gary admits that the fountain is real, but that anyone who goes after it ends in ruin. The conflict starts to attract the worm, and eventually Nate snaps, letting out his own frustrations. He talks about how no one has checked in on his feelings, how he's been missing his Zari, and his frustrations with living on the ship, about not getting a chair in the Hall of Justice. It soon becomes clear he's drawing out the alien on purpose. Spooner tries to get the alien worm feel what she's feeling, and the shootout commences. However, the worm starts to get close to Nate as Spooner starts to lose control. Astra teams up with her and the pair destroy the worm, saving Nate in the process. With everything set to rights, Reeves takes down his wanted sign and explains that he used the townspeople's underestimation of him as his power against them. All was set right. On the Wave Rider, Gary mends things with Constantine by telling him where to get a map to the fountain, so he heads off to find the fountain. Ava and Sarah patch things up, as do Birad and Zari. Birad borrows Zari's totem so that Nate can use both totems to go visit his Zari, and Ava tells the team they can't keep the singing cowboy. The legends are back to normal, and that pretty much ends episode 8 and my review. As I mentioned already, this episode was okay. Not the greatest. Great to see David Ramsey as always, but his cameo didn't really add a lot to the story. I just felt it was a little bit of a waste. I would have definitely preferred if he was like an ancestor of John Diggle. I think that would have been a lot better, and maybe he could have helped him out a bit more, but sadly, it is what it is. But overall, this episode, not the greatest, but not the worst. I'd say it was pretty average, but this episode wasn't entirely silly, so that's forgivable. So, with that all said, I'm going to wrap this up now. What did you think of episode 8? Did you enjoy it? What was your thoughts on David Ramsey's cameo as this Western cowboy named Bass Reeves? Do you think he could have had a bigger part? And also, what about this fountain that Gary has found for Constantine? Do you think there's a way for Constantine to get his powers? And also, what did you think about Astra and Spooner coming to an understanding? Do you think they'll be more on the same page now that they know each other a bit better? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Legends of Tomorrow Season 6 review series, where I'll be talking about Episode 9, which hopefully will be a decent one. So until next time, take care everybody, and stay safe, and once again, thanks for listening.